Episode 6. Nothing left. Impossible. This is impossible. Natalie was slumped on the ground and muttered to herself. She did not want to believe the truth in front of her. No, she did not dare to face the facts. How could James own such a property? He's a poor guy who can't even afford a house. Natalie shook her head frantically. Her hair was disheveled, and she looked like a crazy woman. She no longer had any of her previous arrogance and haughty attitude. The cunning Matt did not care about Natalie either. Instead, he deliberately took a few steps back and distanced himself from her. From the looks of it, he seemed to be cutting ties with Natalie. He did not have the slightest intention of going forward to help her regain her emotions. James stared at Natalie sitting on the ground. He did not have a shred of pity in his heart. This greedy woman. He had paid so much for her in the past and treated her so well, but she still abandoned him for riches. This was what she deserved. The surrounding guests also cast looks of contempt and disdain in Natalie's direction. A gold digger like her would not receive any respect from anyone, no matter the place or occasion. Mr. Tucker, please keep your precious items on your person. I'll arrange security to get rid of these two annoying things as soon as possible. Manager Williams handed the property ownership certificate to James with a trembling voice. He was very respectful in his behavior, not daring to rub James the wrong way. He was trying his best to please James, hoping that James would not take offense at his rude behavior. Wait. At that moment, the man in his 30s frowned. He seemed to have thought of something and shouted at Manager Williams. The man's expression shifted as he quickly walked in front of Manager Williams. He picked up another property ownership certificate and quickly flipped it open. Then he excitedly muttered to himself, "Oh my God, it's the 54th floor. It's really the 54th floor." He seemed to have gone mad as he snatched the remaining property ownership certificates from Manager Williams' hands. He flipped them open one by one. 55th floor. 56th floor. As the certificates were opened one by one, the expression on the man's face became more and more excited. Blood was rushing to his face, and his appearance was lively. At first, he muttered to himself in a low voice. Later on, due to his emotions getting too agitated, he actually started saying them out loud. 57th floor, 58th floor, 59th floor, 60th floor. In the end, he burst into laughter. He looked as if he'd lost his mind, causing everyone to be stunned. They didn't understand what he was talking about at all. After laughing heartily, the man turned silent for a full minute before barely managing to suppress his raging emotions. He inhaled a sharp breath of air. Global Financial Center, from the 51st floor to the 60th floor. The ownership of the entire 10 floors belongs to you, Mr. Tucker? Although the man was very animated earlier, his attitude towards James remained polite and respectful. Despite suppressing the excitement in his heart, he could not hide the overwhelming shock in his eyes. The man's voice wasn't loud, but it was like a clap of thunder that instantly blasted into everyone's ears, jolting them awake. The surrounding guests immediately exploded into a heated discussion. Global Financial Center. Being able to own a floor there was already stunning enough, not to mention 10 floors. 10 whole floors. Just the thought of it spooked the crowd out of their wits. What kind of concept was that? According to the average market value of $30 million per floor, this amounted to a total of $300 million. After hearing the man's words, Natalie forgot her miserable and sad state. She looked at James, her eyes revealing intense shock. She could not believe it at all. To her, all of this was like a nightmare. Matt lowered his head, not daring to look James in the eyes. Previously, he thought that James had the property rights to only one floor of the building, which was worth millions. He merely had some concerns about him, but now when he faced James, who had the property rights to the 10 floors of the office building, his concerns had transformed into fear. Facing such a big shot in the business world, not to mention him, even the family behind him could not afford to offend him. Even Vanessa, who had an extraordinary status, opened her eyes wide in shock when she heard the man's words. She thought he was just an ordinary guy she met on the street. Everyone's attention was focused on James as they wanted to hear him admit it personally. James was not in a hurry to answer the man's question. Instead, he slowly swept his gaze across the crowd. Only then did he look at the man and smile. "It's just as you saw. Do you still need me to explain?" When James's words came out, it instantly caused another wave of commotion. Could it be that Mr. Tucker is the legendary big shot who has been hiding in the business world of New York City for 5 whole years? The man became even more motivated when he heard that and asked again. Ordinary people naturally did not know anything about what he was saying, but in the business world of the city, there had always been a mysterious legend. 5 years ago, when the Global Financial Center was built, there was a mysterious power that bought the property rights of the entire 10 floors in one go. But strangely, for the past 5 years, they had been left empty. Many international companies were willing to pay a high price to rent the office, but they were unable to contact the owner. The 10 floors that had been vacant all this time happened to be the 51st to 60th floors. That was why this man was so awestruck earlier. James didn't answer the man's question. He looked at him and smiled. He didn't deny it. Actually, James couldn't really answer him. It was impossible for him to say that these were all given to him by the system. However, his smile was taken as a form of agreement. The man inferred the meaning he wanted and didn't say anything else. However, his face revealed an even more elated expression. He respectfully handed the property ownership certificates to James, showing almost reverence in his actions. At this moment, 2 security guards downstairs had also rushed over. When Manager Williams saw them, his eyes revealed a trace of ruthlessness. He knew that his chance to show off had arrived. He would redeem himself of his earlier blunder. "The 2 of you, come here and chase this crazy woman out of here. Don't let her affect Mr. Tucker's mood any longer." Manager Williams called out to the 2 security guards. He pointed at Natalie, who was sitting on the ground in a daze, and ordered fiercely, "Yes, sir." When the 2 burly security guards heard the order, they immediately walked towards Natalie. "Matt, save me!" Natalie had never met such a situation before. She was instantly frightened. She looked at Matt and shouted helplessly. She wanted to seek the protection of her new boyfriend, Matt, but the other party was not willing to stand up for her. He was a dissolute playboy, and Natalie was just an exciting toy to him. He didn't even treat her like a person, but James kept her like a princess. Not only did Natalie embarrass herself, she even made him lose face in front of the whole crowd. How could he offend the current James for her? Therefore, Matt pretended not to see Natalie. Instead of going forward to help his new girlfriend, he even glared at her fiercely, throwing her a look of disdain. Matt's attitude caught Natalie off guard. She really did not expect him to be such a person. Facing 2 burly security guards, Natalie was overwhelmed by sadness, pain, helplessness, and confusion. She didn't know what to think or do. She sat there alone. Her appearance was miserable beyond description. She originally thought that by abandoning James and throwing herself into the arms of the rich man like Matt, she would be able to live a comfortable life. She could buy all kinds of designer bags and shows and become the envy of others. But unexpectedly, her beautiful dream shattered before it even started. In the end, not only did she not obtain anything, but she even lost James. She had nothing now.